So earlier this spring we talked about preventing crabgrass, but what if you were in a situation where you couldn't use a pre-emergent, or now for some reason you're starting to maybe see some sort of breakthrough in a few areas with crabgrass? Today I want to go over some of those early summer controls, what you can do to get a handle on that, and the sooner that you get to it, the better, and we'll talk about that here coming up in this video. Also, as we talked about in a video here in the spring, I'm going to be referencing this thing today to show you some of the things you can look at in this book about early crabgrass and also how to control it as you go along into the season. So what I love about this book is it's going to give you the different developmental stages of crabgrass, so you can start to look for this in your lawn. As soon as you start to see these early stages, that's when you would want to target that crabgrass if possible. The reason for this is that those early plants are much easier to control. As the plant matures and as it starts to grow in and root in, it becomes more difficult to control, and sometimes you need more than one application in order to control those older plants. The other important thing is properly identifying that you have crabgrass. Now I know there's a lot of different weeds that somewhat look similar, a lot of rough grasses that somewhat look similar. In this plot here of my Kentucky 31 that I planted this spring, I have a lot of weeds coming in, and from what I can tell, this looks to be more of a foxtail than it does to be crabgrass. But if you look in this book and you look through the areas that it talks about foxtail, it says that control for that is going to be very similar to crabgrass. So whatever you're going to do for crabgrass, this foxtail is an annual plant as well, so it's going to be similar in terms of that. Now the first thing that you can always do if you have an area where you only see a few plants is pull those by hand. Nice thing that I've found about this weed type is that most of the time you can pull these and get the whole root system out without a whole lot of problem, and just do that by hand. So if you happen to have areas near your sidewalks or driveway or somewhere where you start to see maybe some crabgrass come through, remember that you can always go after that and just pull some things by hand. It doesn't have to be that you have to mix something up and spray. So once you've identified that you have an actual crabgrass plant, or that there's another weed very similar to it that you need to control, let's look at this book here and look at some of the options as far as how to control that. So here's some of the things that you need to pay attention to in terms of post-emergent control. Coming straight from this book here, there's a couple tips that I want to go over. So the first thing is know what stage or size of crabgrass is present before you select and apply your herbicide. Herbicide labels contain notes that describe how well they work on certain leaf or tiller sizes of crabgrass. So as I showed you, this has the developmental stages in this book, so you can properly identify which stage the crabgrass is at right now. For smaller crabgrass, pre-tiller is easier to control than larger tillered crabgrass. In most cases, tillered crabgrass requires a higher application rate to control, or 2 post-emergent applications made at 2 to 3 week intervals to complete control. So now we get to actual chemicals that you can use, or formulas that are going to work best depending on different developmental stages. So quinclorac can be used on most cool and warm season grasses. It effectively controls crabgrass when crabgrass is 1 tiller or smaller, or when it has more than 4 tillers. The reason for this is unclear, but well documented. A product that I've been using with good success in the past few years as far as quinclorac goes is Drive Accelerate. There are some other options here listed though as well, but you're just looking for the main ingredient of quinclorac. A lot of people have probably heard of this one. This is mesotrione or tenacity. It's also effective for post-emergent crabgrass control. However, in most cases, it will be necessary to make 2 applications at 5 ounce per acre at a 2-week interval to effectively control crabgrass. Similar applications of Pilex at a 3-week interval will control crabgrass. Research has demonstrated that control from these herbicides is increased when nitrogen fertilizer of 0.125 to 0.5 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet is applied a few days before or the day of an application. So you have a couple other here. You have a Claim Extra and Last Call. Those are brand names, are also effective at controlling crabgrass. Do not tank mix a Claim Extra or Last Call with herbicides that contain 2,4-D. So the last tip here is applying post-emergent herbicides at temperatures greater than 85 will increase the risk of injury to turf. In weedy turf, some turf injury might be acceptable in order to control weeds, but in a turf area with relatively few weeds, it would be best not to make a post-emergent herbicide application for crabgrass control when daytime highs are expected to exceed 85. So they have all this in a nice little chart. It says effectiveness of post-emergent herbicide on crabgrass at various growth stages. So this is going to show you at what developmental stage you're at, what herbicide is going to be best for you. Again, this is going to emphasize that the faster that you find the crabgrass and the faster that you control it, the better that it's going to be in terms of that control. Because as soon as you wait longer, then you're likely going to need multiple applications, or you're going to have to know the specific product that you need according to this table for the best control. So as I mentioned, the product that I would recommend using would be Drive Accelerate or something with quinclorac in it. I found this to be very effective, and for me, for the most part, I haven't seen that I've needed more than one application as long as you start to get to these plants early on. If you already have something else like Tenacity on hand, you can definitely use that, but there are some effects sometimes from Tenacity of bleaching some of your grass as well, so a lot of people freak out with this. They see that some of their grass may turn white for a bit, and that's one of the reasons that I just don't love using Tenacity over something like quinclorac. One thing you're going to want to do is make sure that whatever product you choose, it's going to be compatible with your grass type. Looking at this label for Drive Accelerate, you have all the grass types here that are highly tolerant of this product, some that are moderately tolerant, and then some that are susceptible to damage. So this is something that you'll want to pay attention to and pick the right product for your grass type specifically. Also, there's so many different things on this label as far as recommendations, what to do with irrigation or not do with irrigation, or just various things that you need to pay attention to. So I know it's not the fun part to look at the label and study all this stuff, but it's important to make sure that you're using the product correctly. You'll see here it gives you a table as far as which weeds you're going after and what your rate should be. So let's just look at crabgrass here. It says crabgrass large or smooth. Broadcast application would be 1.45 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet. So that would be that rate, and then I would typically spray this in 1 gallon per 1,000 square feet. If you've never sprayed before, it wouldn't be a bad idea to go out with plain water over 1,000 square foot area that you measure out and see if you can get that 1 gallon of water to be sprayed evenly over that before you go out with any other products. The other thing you'll see on this label that I do as well is that you can add an MSO to this. So methylated seed oil is going to help this product to stick to the actual leaves of the plant that you want to control. That way you're not seeing water bead up on there. It's actually going to cover the plant and control it much better. So according to the label here, the rate for the methylated seed oil would be 0.55 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet. All right, so I have my 1 gallon of water in my sprayer. I'm going to make sure I'm wearing my gloves. I have long sleeves on and long pants. I also put some boots on so that when I'm spraying, I don't get anything on my shoes. So I have mixed up already the 1.45 ounces of the Drive. That's going to go into the sprayer. And then this is the MSO. So remember that we needed 0.55 ounces into this 1 gallon. I'm going to add that now, then shake that all up and make sure it's good and mixed together. And then I'll show you how to spray. So when you're spraying now, you don't want to be hovering over anything or pointing down at anything. You just want a nice even spray about knee high, evenly over the area so that you get the coverage that you need. Hopefully you'll be able to see it here, but how that MSO makes it so that the product coats that leaf. You can see it shiny. The water on there has coated that whole thing, so there's not a bunch of large droplets. Make sure now to pay attention to the control and see how it's doing for you, just in case you need to look at another application, and make sure to follow the label as far as when you can apply again or what it says for intervals there between these sprays. That's really all there is to it. I have a few more areas to spray. That's why I mixed up that whole gallon, so I'm going to use the rest of that on a few other areas that I need to work on. So I hope that was helpful today to give you some ideas on early summer crabgrass or other annuals. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.